Speaking of my back being turned, I almost turned my back on SmackDown this week, but I've heard they were in Evansville, my old second hometown, my long-lost stomping grounds. Every Wednesday night at the Coliseum on Court Street. Boy, howdy, what a fun. Actually, it was fun. And you actually saw some good wrestling. But here we were for SmackDown, which has nothing to do with good wrestling. And again, you see that they start getting kind of thin when Roman Reigns wasn't on this program, but now they can't, because of the nature of the story, have all the members of the bloodline together talking, because Jay's still being the Crow Sting and, hanging out in the arena and not really talking to his brother except on live national television. So they're milking that Jay and Jimmy are going to talk to each other as the main event tonight. They're actually going to talk to each other out in front of God and everybody. And, again, normally I'd say, well, yeah, fuck. This fucking guy, he keeps leaving messages for his brother, but the only time he sees his brother is on live TV when they're having a wrestling match or a fucking interview. He comes in from another place. But it's still so good and people are interested, so I'll grade on the curve. But that was the storyline running through the program. But the opening match, I actually watched it or tried to watch it again. Brown Strongman and Ricochet and old Mosh Pit Jones. Get out the way for old Mosh Pit Jones. If they're still going to call him Madcap, we can't take him seriously. The guy looks fucking great. And we talked about this last week, and they were in a 6-man tag with Gunther and his Imperium Stooges of Marcel and Marceau. And I said, I'm wanting to see Moss advance because he has so much potential, and I love Gunther, so I'm going to watch this. And also, they got to the opening bell only 8 minutes into the show, so that was a positive. But then poor Moss, he gets in there with Da Vinci, and he got off. They tried to do a running spot, and Moss got off kilter and couldn't get it back. I bet it would have been a good spot, but he got off balance, and they needed to just grab a hold and slow down for a second. But when Ricochet got in, he was doing all the flipping, but at least their shit was sharp. And what is the other guy's name? It's Da Vinci and Kaiser Wilhelm. That's what it is. He looks good, but again, they've been presented as the flunkies that stand there with their hands behind their back, and you can see them if they had the feather in the hat and the fucking trombone, they'd be toot 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 when the fucking king comes in. But they went to the break. They hadn't gone 3 minutes yet. And they went to the break after a heat spot where all three of the heels stopped Ricochet so he could sell. Boom. And when they come back, they're already getting the heat on Ricochet. And finally, Gunther gets in. And again, he turns not only the energy level, but the attention factor up. Anytime he gets in the ring, he's the guy for that side. But within seconds, Ricochet hits a hot tag to Brown, and here comes the strong man. Big comeback on the Stooges. And Gunther gets tagged in behind his back, but takes over on Brown barely. Because they've got this thing where now Gunther, when he's facing off with Strongman, he'll chop Strongman and he won't sell it. Then he'll chop Gunther. That's Gunther's thing, and Gunther will at least register and sell facially. And I don't care how big he is. He needs fucking stagger and wince. But anyway, finally, Moss tagged himself back in, and Gunther hit him with a chop, a German suplex, a clothesline, and a power bomb, and beat him 1, 2, 3. And they went 4 minutes on the other side of the break. So each guy got basically a minute in the match. And then Drew McIntyre had come out in the entranceway during the match to stare at Gunther. And suddenly, as he's still staring at Gunther, the Vikings attacked him in the aisleway, and here came Sheamus and saved him, and then Strongman and Ricochet got involved in it. And the Vikings got booted into the front row, and all the baby faces celebrated. There you have it. What'd you think?
You know, I like Imperium a lot, especially just Gunther as the lead and Kaiser as the main stooge, because he can make the faces and he can actually do some stuff in the ring. Not that the other guy can't, but the other guy's more of a stone face than Kaiser, who's really hamming it up, but it works. They feel like a main event thing because of Gunther. Ricochet and Strowman have been okay as a tag team. Moss, they're trying to make it work. Whether it is or isn't, I don't know. As soon as you see the fucking Vikings.
But how hard are they trying to make it work when they just fucking have a guy snatch him and hit about 3 moves on him and beat him? Boom.
They're trying
every
to make
week.
WWE style. They give him a girl for no reason. Was she out? She wasn't even out there with him this week.
No, thankfully.
Did something happen? Did they say anything happened on commentary? I missed it.
I don't know. I think maybe she missed her bus. I'm not sure.
But you said the main thing. When I was watching this, you hit the main word, depth. They have no depth right now. And, you know, it's going to be interesting because I was thinking about it, not to take this completely away from this match, but I was thinking about it recently. AEW, not that it's a perfect comparison, but they're almost getting to the point now, a few years in, where they risk running into what Ann Gunkel ran into, where you can't access any more talent.
Yeah.
I mean, there's always someone. I don't mean any more talent, but top tier main event level talent. People that are ready for that spot. There aren't going to be Halls and Nashes. We just watched that NWO biography that you could just snatch up, put on your show, and instantly everything feels bigger. Because AEW Dynamite today isn't where Nitro was before all that happened. And I think the depth is an issue for both companies. And with WWE, they have 2 separate shows. And, you know, again, you don't want guys doing angles on 2 shows a week. That's overdoing it. But it all comes back to that roster split because there's a lot of stuff that just, you see it, you watch it. Does it register at all? For me, it doesn't. And this match, sadly, falls under that umbrella.
Well, and they've wrung a lot of passion out of everything. Okay, the next segment, there's Rey Mysterio and old Pablo Escobar and Dominic and Rhea Ripley in the back.
This I like.
Well, but at the same time, what really, everybody was just calmly, Escobar said he respects Rey, and Rey says feelings mutual, but then Dominic comes in and he's kind of a smartass, and Escobar says, well, I'll teach you, but Rhea steps in front of him. But everybody's just going through the motions with this stuff to me. I'm looking for some aggression, some conflict. It's just they're reciting the verbiage and trying not to. I think sometimes, and I've heard them do this, up there, they don't want guys to overact. Well, that horse has left the barn, right? Especially in some case, like with Seth Franklin Rollins. They don't want to overact, be natural. Well, natural being... Yeah, that's not an argument that I want to watch between people. I want to see the fucking argument where they're throwing shit down and fucking pulling their watch off. That's the fucking argument I want to see. So, it kind of,
It's the mini bloodline in terms of like a mini storyline that's going on week after week after week. And now it's beyond wrestling matches. There are backstage segments. There are videos on YouTube of family arrests and stuff. It's become that little mini... I say bloodline just because it's a multi-week, multi-year at this point storyline that keeps playing out. It's the same thing with this one. And I'm not completely sick of it. And part of it's because of how good I think Dominic and Rhea, but Dominic's the surprising one, have been in their roles. And you know what? If they're going to try something new with the head of the Lucha suits, I want to see what it is. It's a little different. I'm curious.
I want to see here. Rey Mysterio needs to bring his personal attorney out and show the new will that he has made that has written Dominic completely out of it.
See, that's the move. If it was real life, you're out of my will.
Yeah.
That changes everything. That's
fuck you, kid. All right. So anyway, and again, the bloodline was in the back. And, Jimmy is saying, things just feel different. And Paul tells Solo, you stay in the back with me. Keep an eye on me. And Jimmy, you go out in the ring later on and handle your brother Jay. So that's the way they're going to play that. And then whatever poor LA Knight has done to deserve his fate here in this company, he comes to the ring, he cuts a promo, and it sounds good. I came here to make money and win titles, and you do that by going to WrestleMania. Well, you can't have an LA WrestleMania without LA Knight, and people kind of start getting this. Yeah. And suddenly, the New Day music, and they're out laughing and joking. No. The Cheerio vomit colors, and they're making funny faces, or pulling faces, as William Regal would say, and they make it silly. And LA Knight's trying to tell them off by basically, you guys are a fucking bunch of jack-offs or whatever, stating the obvious, but the New Day, you can't make these guys mad, they just want to joke. So I fast-forwarded through the rest of the promo because I knew what was going to happen. There's going to be a match with one of them. And son of a gun, wouldn't you know who won the pony? LA Knight against Kofi Kingston. And match number 2 started at 37 minutes into the program, by the way, with 7 minutes so far of actual wrestling. And they went about 5 minutes, and it was very athletic. I'm a fan of LA Knight's work. I can't stand the New Day. And it's not even the people in it. That Xavier Woods was Consequences Creed in TNA. He was a great kid. Loved him then. I just don't, all the trombones and the lollipops and the fucking unicorns and the cheery and I just don't want to see any of it. So I fucking don't give a shit. And at least they got about 9 minutes or so of match on the air. This, I think, may have been the longest match in recent history on television from either cut. Well, definitely the WWE. And then the finish is LA Knight does his leap to the top from the mat to do the suplex throw on Kingston. But Kingston ducks under it, and as LA Knight lands on the top rope with both feet, which is exceptionally athletic, by the way, the numbnuts partner blows the trombone in his face to distract him, causing him to crotch himself on the top rope, and then Kofi Kingston hits a kick on him. 1, 2, 3. He can't even beat Kofi Kingston. He just got beat flatter than fucking a plate full of piss by Bray Wyatt and his cousin Howdy Doody or whatever. He was made to be a male model or male model manager. Now they let him get his name back, and he can't even beat Kofi fucking Kingston to just try to get the guy over at the start, so then he could do some jobs. I don't know. I
would like AEW to sign him and basically just do exactly what WWE's doing with him for the first half of every segment he's in. He comes out there, this is what makes it so disappointing. It always starts so promising. He gets on the mic, he starts doing a good promo, the people start reacting on their own to him. This guy's been treated like shit, they're still reacting. Everything's going good, you're getting into him. And then the person you least want to see next will come out and root it. He goes from Bray Wyatt to this, again, New Day, very talented. Kofi Kingston's been there a very long time, talented guy. Big E, who's out of action, talented guy. I've never really seen a good match with the other guy. I'm not saying he hasn't had him, but because I hate the gimmick so much, it would fit. Yeah. It would fit on a male glow. You know what I mean? Like it's not for me. It's not for me. So that's the problem. LA Knight getting over, doing a good job. Looks like a wrestler. And if he walked into a place and said, I'm a professional wrestler, it's not an outrageous thing. It's not an outrageous thing at all. So at this point, I wonder if they're doing it just to fuck with us. I'm not exactly sure, but it makes no sense. He's really good. And the people are reacting to him despite all of this. despite everything that's happened.
Imagine if he actually ever got to finish his fucking promo. But
right, it's the first half of every segment. It's like, yeah, this is great. Yeah.
Never ends well. But speaking of finishing a promo, so Charlotte is the top of the 9 o'clock hour. She actually got, I think, about 8:57, a little early, but we had some star power coming out. And of course, it's about Rhea Ripley and WrestleMania. And Charlotte comes out and says she can't wait to hear what Rhea Ripley has to say to my face. Come on out. Nobody comes. Come on, it's okay to be scared, but here comes Dominic. And also with no music, which was refreshing.
Yes.
I'm not going to let you run down mommy. And, you know, Dominic, again, he's better in a live environment than in the pre-tapes in the back, right? To me, because not only does he have the natural sliminess and he's got the shithead heat, but he feeds a little more maybe off of the people there around him booing him. He comes out of it a little bit more. He's very just kind of canned and rehearsed in the, I mean, it's not like he's goddamn Roddy Piper right now to begin with. He is getting by on sometimes a lot of his slimy heat factor, but he's getting so much better, and I think he's better in front of people. But anyway, he runs
down. People love booing him. They love booing him.
They enjoy telling him what a piece of shit he is. And Dominic tells Charlotte what a piece of shit she is, and then Charlotte says, I've got a Latino man at home that calls me mommy with a much thicker accent. And everybody popped at that because that was true. They've heard Andre try to speak English. But it was another long, dramatic WWE style performance where nobody is wanting to act mad. They want to have insincere, sly, backhanded, knocks at each other and exchange those. But finally, Charlotte threatens to beat up Dominic, and that's when Rhea comes out. Okay, here we go. And she goes face to face with Charlotte, and Dominic pulls her back, and she comes back again, and they leave, and nothing happens. So, okay, all right, I guess. What do you think?
I mean, I'm still not digging Charlotte as a babyface. I'll start by saying that.
You know what? You laughed at me when I said, well, she was in South Carolina. But have you noticed she was a Raven babyface in South Carolina, and they brought the house down. But she doesn't really enjoy being a happy, peppy, pleasant person. And I don't think the fans are really totally like, oh, we love you. It's like, oh, it's Charlotte, but not like, oh, I want to have your children and live with you my life.
That's the thing. For the younger listeners, there used to be a wrestler years ago named Ric Flair. He's actually Charlotte's dad. And he was a heel, and the fans turned him because he became such an icon, and he was so good at what he did, and he was the coolest fucking wrestler on TV that they couldn't boo him. This is the opposite of that. The fans didn't have that kind of take to Charlotte, so it feels to me kind of forced, and she's so good as a bitchy heel.
Yeah.
Maybe the best. So to me, this isn't the best way to use her. And I don't think it's taking.
And I think South Carolina gave us all false hope.
Imagine if that was in North Carolina, what it would have been.
Woo! But anyway, so Shayna Baszler with Lousy Rousey in her corner faced Natalya, and I remind you now that the bell rings for match number 3, an hour and 14 minutes into the show with 16 minutes of wrestling so far. And they went 3 minutes and Shayna armbarred her and she tapped out. So thanks for coming, you guys.
What do you think of Ronda here? I mean, they came out to Ronda's music. Ronda's at ringside. She seems to be more into this than anything else she's done there. Working as a ringside coach for Shayna Baszler. Any thoughts?
No. No, I mean, who was it that said, were we talking about it? Was it even on the earlier part of this marathon show? That a lot of people have just, Ronda Rousey, I think it was the last show we did last week. a lot of people have just, Ronda Rousey doesn't have the oomph. Maybe, if you go to see one live WWE event per year or even less than that, and you see her music comes on and it's Joan Jett, okay, but I mean, you would have thought from her first year in the company, what, 2018 was it? 19, whatever it was. You would have thought that she would be really on top, megastar level in the eyes of the people for good off of that. But what she's done since she's been back, people are kind of like, eh. I mean, is it just me?
No. But people have done that because she's kind of seemed like she's doing that.
Yeah. Maybe they told her to fucking light a fire under her ass or something.
Light an ass.
Or light an ass under her fire.
And then Nikki Ass ran out on fire. People thought Harley Race was in the building.
Speaking of fire, coming up next, everybody wanted to, they're on Twitter already, they've been asking since the thing aired, what did you think, Jim Cornette, about the Firefly Funhouse? I don't understand what they're fucking doing. Because nothing sits long enough to goddamn actually even finish a sentence, make a point, whatever. There's colors, there's cartoons, there's unseen kids cheering. It's a children's show, but then there's a clip of action figures being held with hands, unseen people fighting and then Bray Wyatt's watching video of himself with wah-wah sound effects, but then they're trying to do a news show, Funhouse News, but the rabbit puppet. What sense does any of this make? I wrote, how is this creative when it doesn't? And then the game show, can you keep a secret? But nobody ever tells us whether they can or not, or what the secret is. Strange sound effects and video effects cutting back and forth and gibberish. And it's over. What are they teasing us to find out? Help me.
There is no Oz. This is just a man back here. I don't know. They're not teasing anything. They don't know where they're going with this crap. This is exactly what I knew would happen. We're back to where we were with this guy. I think he's a talented guy. Whatever he's trying to say, and I don't know what it is, and quite frankly, no one knows what it is. He doesn't know what it is. Whatever it is, it has a great look. He should go sell it to Adult Swim. It doesn't belong here, and it's not good. And this is like where the argument, if someone sells merch, does it justify this? Like David Lynch, even though that could be kind of airy at times, it goes somewhere. It has an ending. Well, it doesn't actually have an ending. The point of the matter is, this is just ridiculous. It looks cool. If it was somewhere else, what do you want me to say? This is exactly what I knew would happen. Everything since he's come back has been exactly what people are like, oh, it's going to be different this time. No Vince. It's the same this time.
I want to hear the pitch. I want to hear him explain to the writers or the producers, whoever, well, this is what we're saying. Here's what we're going to do. How would you articulate any of this to get them to agree to put it on television to begin with?
This should just be a wrestling theater show for all the people that trained in the performance center but really want to be in theater. Let them have a promotion. And it can go from one side to the other. It could be hyper-emotional romance wrestling into spooky, supernatural puppet wrestling. Put that in one place. And also, don't do that. If you have the bloodline going, which is a pretty serious thing, all things considered, for wrestling and ignoring the camera. And Ray and Dominic, which, not as serious because of Dominic's comedic nature and everything, but they're treating it serious-ish for wrestling, and then in the middle of all that, you have this shit just drop in.
Just drop in. Well, speaking
who delivered the tape to WWE? Who, that's the thing I would say if I was wrestling Bray Wyatt. You want me to be scared. Who's your fucking courier? Who's delivering this stupid tape?
Who's paying the director off in the truck to actually switch to this and air it?
Jeez. Awful.
All right. Calm down, because there's an update in the Bloodline situation. Roman Reigns has sent Paul a text. He's going to be here live next week on SmackDown. And Jimmy needs to handle Jay tonight, or elsewise Roman's going to do it next week. So now shit's getting serious around here.
Hey, to the conversation we had earlier around the Wrestler of the Year talk about Roman's importance even when he's not there, here's a great example. He wasn't on this show at all.
Well, yes, but somebody has to be calling the shots. And that's what, the big dog is still in charge of everything. That's why this is working. Because the idea of the support of the fans is they're supporting a bunch of different baby faces that are coming from different directions and motivations, but will probably converge at some point to take down the Bloodline. If there was no head honcho to take down, people wouldn't care. And speaking of not caring, Rey Mysterio versus Karrion Kross. Boy, howdy have... Kross was going to be a superstar, and now he's a goddamn Coldwell banker. He just looks... The hair has... I don't know what the fuck. But anyway, fourth match, the bell rang at 9:34, an hour and 34 minutes into the program, with 19 minutes of wrestling in that hour and a half. And there wasn't anything wrong with this match. Rey Mysterio's a pro, and they didn't do anything to embarrass themselves. It's a WWE match. They go a minute, Rey hit a dive, they went to the break. And the pitch was to the break, Rey's rolling on SmackDown, instead of Raw rolls on. So he knows two of them, I'll have you know. And then they come back, and Kross is already getting the heat, and Rey's fighting back from underneath. And they do, again, a fine professional job, but it's the WWE, so people are just kind of waiting to see what the next thing is. And finally, Rey goes for the 619, but Scarlett has jumped up on the apron to yell at the referee and standing on the bottom rope. And when Rey hits the ropes, she took the manager bump into the ring, which was nice.
Yeah, she took a good bump.
Yeah. And that's the old fucking the tug of war bump, and also, or the whatever the fuck, classic manager bump. But anyway, Rey again goes for the 619, but Dominic is there on the other side to block it and pulls Rey out on the floor. And Dom dares Rey to hit him. And Rey gets back in the ring, says, I'm not going to do that, and walks right over to Karrion Kross, who nails him with a fucking elbow. It's like, what the fuck? He's standing there looking at Dominic, and then he rolls in the ring and stands up and just walks into and eats an elbow. And then Kross gets the rear choke and Rey's out. Just that simple. And then Dominic berated Rey some more, and Rey walked out again. I know he doesn't want to hit his son, but I mean, at what point do you make a guy look like a putz? But anyway, so that was the main event wrestling match. 25 minutes of wrestling in a 2-hour program. Not bad this week compared to normal. What did I miss about the match?
Not much. I mean, they definitely have lost whatever was special about Karrion Kross and Scarlett. Even the entrance. How many times can I see her lip sync or sing along with, dramatically, herself singing the lyrics of the song? And what does she do? Does she actually fall? With the fall and pray, when she falls and he's right behind her, which is more of a trick of photography than him popping up out of the fucking ground.
Yes.
Does she actually fall, or does she just move to the side? Like, what happened? We've seen this so many times is the point. And
I don't know. I think she's falling and praying.
Well, back then he had no hair, and now he has hair, and the opposite of Samson. The more hair, the less charisma, or I don't know how it works.
And also no hair, no flair, but nevertheless. So we got 10 minutes left on the air, over hair.
Oh, come on.
Well, are you there?
Stop with these bad ones.
I'm sorry. It's rare that I have a bad one, mon frere. But anyway, with 10 minutes left on the air.
Move on with the show, I dare.
Au contraire. 10 minutes left on the program. Jimmy, and I wish there was 10 minutes left on this program. There might not be 10 minutes left on this program. Jimmy Uso comes to the ring. And Jimmy, of the bunch of them, I believe, is not the natural verbal linguist. But he did all right. He's trying. And he did a good job.
Yeah, it seems a little more real sometimes when the person isn't so fluid at it.
Well, and that's he's conflicted is what he is. And I know you're torn. My brother, when you hurt, I hurt. I'll always be here for you like I need you to be here right now for me. And while he's talking, suddenly, and I know Sammy's made a lot of money. Certainly he can at least afford another hoodie. Or is he going to do regular laundry, I wonder?
Well, he probably only wears it when he does his vigilante stuff at the wrestling shows. So that's not
That's
too
true.
often.
He got it from Charles Bronson. So Sammy in the hoodie appears in the ring. And Jimmy turns around and sees him. And, oh, I'm not here to fight. And there's the face down there because Jimmy hates him. But he's telling Jimmy that, hey, remember when we were dogs? We were dogs, and then we were cats. And then we were ponies. We were a little horse. But anyway, he said, we were dogs. And you were the first one that trusted me, because remember, that was the original part of the story. It was Jimmy that liked him. Jay didn't trust him. And then they flip-flopped that. It was great. But you were the one that trusted me. You made me an honorary oos. But at the Rumble, you didn't think twice about taking me down, and that hurt me, right? And then Jimmy fired up then. And that was because he had some fucking emotion here too. Blame me. You made the choice with the chair. I did what I had to do. And Sammy on the other part, he's so genuine with the way that he's delivering this to where you can buy it, where he says family doesn't make you prove something every single week. And while they're talking to each other, Jay appears in the balcony. And the people popped and he was shot. And I don't know whether maybe they jumped the gun on it or maybe but Sammy didn't notice Jay at that point up there, even though the people knew he was there. As Sammy tells Jimmy that he's going to make sure that Roman Reigns goes down. And see, that's the thing. Cody wants to win the title that they took away from his daddy in the garden. But now he's already told Heyman, I just want to win a wrestling title, and you keep making this personal. So now it's personal for Cody. And Owens has come out and said, when he blew Sammy off, I'm dedicating myself to taking the bloodline down. I've been doing it by myself. I'll keep doing it by myself. And now Sammy says here, I'm going to make sure that Roman Reigns goes down, but the Usos don't have to go down with the ship. He's motivated for their three top baby faces from three different motivations that have history with each other, or in the case of Owens and Zayn, or no history really to speak of since Cody's been gone so long. And Cody's the outsider. He could be the impartial party, the mediator. But you're starting to assemble like Dusty used to do. The top group of baby faces were their own people, but they had common goals. And anyway, Usos don't have to go down with the ship. And then Sammy looks up in the bleachers and sees Jay, and Jimmy decks him and gets on him. And Jay comes down to ringside more slowly than like he's trying to make a save. And Jimmy turns and looks at him like, what are you going to do? And that's when Sammy comes and hits the kick from behind. And then Solo hits the ring, so Sammy has to powder, and Jay is still standing there looking at everybody like, what the fuck? So for not having the big dog actually on the program, as long as the big dog still exists, these people are doing his will. This story is still featured, and all of it is developing wonderfully. What do you think?
The big dog is the main cog in the wheel, because if you took him out of the wheel, everything else would fall apart. It's all based around him, his bloodline, his championships. This was still a great segment in terms of not much happened, but it was good. You know, it held you. You wanted to see if something would happen. I don't know how many more times Sammy could jump in the ring like the vigilante and then, hold on, wait a minute, hold on, give me a second, let me talk.
Yeah.
Can't see that anymore.
Not trying to keep interrupting this network television program on a completely unauthorized basis, but give me 10 minutes and I'll explain.
That's right. Please, security, understand. I just need a few moments on the mic. Thank you.
That's what John Wilkes Booth said at Ford's Theater. Security, please understand. I just need a few moments.
Of course, he also wore the same hoodie week after week.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a great angle. I'm still intrigued where they're going. I always wonder, because it's so good and it leads to things like what happens with me and you, where, you know, you see it, other fans too. All you do is talk about the various scenarios that could happen. It's one of the best wrestling angles of modern times because of that. Fans are intrigued where it's going. We don't know exactly where this is going to end. Even if Cody wins the belt, that's a big moment for Cody. That's a major moment. That doesn't mean it's the end of the whole bloodline thing.
Right.
So I love this. I think this is great stuff. But because of Heyman's involvement, and I like Paul Heyman, but I always wonder, is there an ending? Or is it kind of, you know, we have a great idea. We don't know where we're going to go with it. Let's just go with it week after week. Let's just come in and go with it week after week. Who knows where it's going to end? We don't know where it's going to end. That's the only thing I wonder. Is there an actual ending, or will it just fade into some? Like, it'll be interesting to see how this goes, but
I can fall somewhere in the middle because I agreed with the old Vince McMahon philosophy back in the 80s of booking a year in advance for your main event at WrestleMania, but not the actual angles and specific finish one foot in front of the other and all the details, because then you're taking spontaneity out of the thing when you're actually in the middle of doing it. And conversely, as you mentioned, Paulie is noted for sometimes starting things and just riding the wave, and suddenly you're still riding and the wave is out from under you without really the ending.
Tommy Dreamer was pile driving Beulah, and then she somehow got pregnant with Tommy Dreamer's baby, and then she announced that she's a lesbian and she wasn't pregnant anymore.
Like that.
Yes.
But hopefully there'll be a happy medium where they have agreed on at some point a general idea of the climax of the story, so everybody goes home happy from the theater, but at the same time they're willing to extend or open things up to interpretation if things come along, which they have done with Sammy. When this was originally, from what we were told, supposed to be a 3-week thing or whatever on TV, but it got over because they did it well, so they kept doing it.
And, you know, I said before about, you know, you talked about roster depth, and they have 2 different brands, but really, what's the main story on both shows? It's the bloodline on both shows. I mean, a lot of these guys are now appearing on both shows. I mean, it's great. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
They ain't that deep. I'm going to say and if the networks have a problem, maybe it will be offset by the fact the ratings go up when they're allowed to use the entire talent pool.